folks, we are back on the bench. I have been playing around with the SmartiPi case, trying to go through and figure out cable length. If you remember, this is the cable that came with the Raspberry Pi display, and it is 4 inches long. It's too short. But I do have an 8-inch cable, and it's the one that came with the SmartiPi case. So the next thing I had to do was go through and determine, to verify, is everything the correct length? And in this case, yeah, literally in this case, we come out more than long enough. So this folds back, this comes up. Our Raspberry Pi 3A Plus, when everything's lined up, drops in perfect, which gives us enough to make the turn for our ribbon cable, and it gives us enough to make the turns to get our GPIO pins back on. There'll be a little bit of bending to get it on. Now, the other thing I've been thinking about is, do I want to stay with the A+? Because as I showed you guys the other day, with the new, I'm just going to lay these down for right now, but with the SmartiPi top hat cover, I do now have the protection over those ports that was bugging me initially. If you remember, when we used the original back, it left the ports exposed, and I'm not a big fan of that. So by using the top hat cover, we've now eliminated that problem, and I gain my extra ports. Could be a little bit of work here to think through some more stuff, mainly cooling, because as I mentioned in today's video, as I try and tilt that camera back around a little bit, I could potentially see upgrading to a Raspberry Pi 4 to gain the extra display port. So now I'm having to think about cooling. Sure, there's active cooling we can do, a Peltier cooler. There's also different fan options, which I think adding a small intake fan, if I can find the other one, I'm thinking by adding to the side of the case here, cutting into it, and adding an intake fan to the inside, and then heat sinks on the CPU, the GPU of the Raspberry Pi 4, might give me enough blow-through cooling and then coming out this side where the USB ports are to make that a viable option. If not, I could put an exhaust here through the case, draw the air in here over the cooling and out. This may actually be the better airflow pattern, to come in through the side, out through the back, to move across the fins, up over any top hat that we do end up placing on here, which we know for sure is going to be a GPS top hat, possibly barometric pressure, pitch, yaw, sensor board. So you can see how all of this evolves, and I'm the guy that's going to sit and think through every single step of this. And I think I'm feeling more confident with going with the B+. So what I'm going to do, yeah, I think I will. I'll go with the B+. And then we'll come back to this. Yeah, we'll come back to this in just a minute. I'm going to switch over to the B+. Yeah, I'll transfer over the micro SD. I'm going to switch to the B+, update it, make sure that all the drivers are updated because we are adding new devices, and make sure that's updated, and then I'll come back with you guys and mount the board and hook everything back up. And just because I know somebody's going to ask, changing board to board is just this simple. We're going to remove the micro SD, we're going to transfer it over, and we're done. Just so you can see the full process. I've transferred the micro SD. I'm going to bring in my unifying receiver for my keyboard and touch screen, or touchpad, there you go. I drew a blank on the name of it. Okay, we've got the micro SD. So we are going to plug in our HDMI. Be my board again. It's all right. I just like to be safe and not have the ability to touch anything. All right, micro SD is in, unifying receiver, HDMI. We are going to bring in power. My display is in the process of switching. I do have video. Whoops, apt, update, sudo dummy. Learn how to spell. Update. Just going to make sure, see if we have any updates here. Okay, now all of our updates finished as I reach across here to kill power. So we are ready to go and ready to start mounting. All right. So I have my GPIO through. I have my ribbon cables. You know what? Let me check these cables one more time and just make sure we're still firmly seated, and we are. My display cable is in. Sorry, I don't know how many of you, I'm seeing that I'm getting more views on the Raspberry Pi videos than I am on, or the numbers don't match up. So some of you are only coming in for the Raspberry Pi stuff, which I don't have a problem with. But I'm getting direct messages on Facebook with questions, so if you have questions, just go ahead and post them here, since I obviously don't know a lot of you guys face to face, or by name anyways. One of the questions was, why not just use a Raspberry Pi 4 in this build? And that is a good question. Honestly, I just had not thought about it. My goal was to have this be relatively lower power consumption. But the commenter brought up a good point about, and my Raspberry Pi 4 is not on the desk. Why not use the 4? Because the 4 offers dual display capability. So the ribbon cable would go to the 7-inch display, and the micro HDMI is still active. In this configuration, the HDMI out from the Pi 3 only outputs the rainbow. Once I get this up and running, I'm going to read into that more. Possibly with the new drivers, it will work both outputs. I haven't tried it because initially I never thought about using an additional display, because my original intent was just to have one display. I didn't need it. So when it comes to small screws, you've all seen it where you see the head of a Phillips that's stripped out because somebody used the wrong driver size. There's nothing worse than small electronics where you get the wrong screwdriver, or you get, see, like even that one's slipping. I could probably go up to a 1. Yep, and I'm going to do that too. And B, should have left it out, but so to change the micro SD, we have to pull the Pi out. And also when I come back to mount my switch here for shutdown, although I could come off the back and just put it on put the switch back here up on the top of the case. Alright, yeah, I think I'll do that. I think we'll just put the switch through the top of the case when we get to that point. Having to disassemble this completely to change out my operating system. I'll leave that. Let's see, does that give me enough clearance? Yeah. Okay. I need 4 nuts. Find my little nut driver. Truth be told, if I was actually building this for, I don't know if it was work or somebody else, and I knew that they would not be experimenting with it at all, I would actually Loctite these. There we go. Nope. I think I got it under there and go to pin 4. On the upper row, I don't remember the pinout numbers because I don't have the pinout sheet up. I just have the photograph I took of the board when I took it apart. Green goes to the second pin. Yellow goes to the third pin on the top row. Okay. One more time, just to compare it to the photo. Cameras are your best friend with items like this. Red is on pin 1, black is on pin 4. Green is on row 2, pin 2. Yellow is on row 2, pin 3. So now, what do I want to do here? I need to leave this back off during the experimentation. Right, well, I thought about it, and somebody is going to say, well, how did that go in there? The nuts are keyed. This is a keyway for the nuts, that they only drop in there one way. I'm sure you guys know what a keyway is, but if you don't, the nut will only set in that channel for it one way with the collar straight so that it holds it in place. Guiding it in. Do not wrench these. It just needs to be enough friction to hold it in a position, you know, to whatever angle you choose to set it at. You only need enough friction to hold it in place, and that's it. The wear is extremely magnetic. Okay. Again, we just have a very light friction on there so we can lift and bend as needed. Okay. When I'm done with it, I will take the protective cover off. Now I'm just dropping in this finish plate so we have a nice clean finished look to the case. Son of a the problem I'm having is, see, it's weight forward, so I'm having to keep weight on this while not having it tump over. Previous statement about a screw in every hole and a nut on every bolt. Okay. Now, all I need is to bring power around. Okay, I'm disconnected on that end. This cable may turn out to be a little thick to make that bend, but we're going to give it a shot. All right, I got it in there. Oh, coming loose. Yeah, see, we're right back to our lightning bolt now. We did not have that problem while running on okay, let me bring back up the camera controls so I can adjust. And there you go, we are running. Oops. All right, so we are up and running, and I'll be right back with you guys. Well now, ain't that a bugger? Not a one of my wall warts is capable of putting out beyond 2 amps. I noticed that my little Anker 10,000 milliamp hour battery pack is capable of putting out 3 amps. I can't get this in there where you can see it, but on the PD port, which is over here, is capable of putting out 3¼ amps. However, I do not have a cable to go from USB-C to micro USB. So we will just muddle through with it like this. Tomorrow I'll shoot some video in the van with it. Okay, so that leaves us at the point now where I think I'm ready to just bring this out and put it in the car tomorrow and shoot some video. So the question is then, what would we like to do? I think one option may be to install maybe Google to get a bit of voice control. However, I do not have a USB mic, so I need to find that. There are a lot of other options, like I had talked about the dash cam, which we had talked about before, which is a 5 megapixel camera. So we may start looking at that. I have to figure out how to mount that lens or that entire camera through this cover. Okay, I've reset the camera. I have shut down the Pi. Now I want to take a look at, so we're going to move our power cable just a little bit here. I'm going to rest this cover in place. And now we're going to start taking a look at this. Actually, I'm going to just move that completely out of the way. And we'll start taking a look at this Argicam. I don't know that we will get this integrated in tonight, but just give us an idea of where we're going with this. If I remember correctly, well, that is just a hole. You know what? So I don't damage this ribbon cable, I'm going to go ahead and pull this out. Okay, that screw is now completely loose. I'll take that out. So I'm just taking this off to give you guys a view of the sensor itself. Down in here, this little, if you're not familiar with it, it's that little thing that's flashing blue as the light hits it. That is our sensor. So that is the retina, so to speak. Okay. Now, let me just turn this upside down just to protect that sensor. Okay, well, I cannot find my extra C-mount lenses, so we will just put this back together for right now. We'll come back to that when we get to that point. But ideally, what I would do, oops, that's why I had that apart. In this, try and get this where you can see it. In this case right here, I would cut a hole that is the diameter of this connector, of this screw mount, so that it protrudes through the housing and then just mount the circuitry up there, probably with Sugru or something like that. If you're not familiar with Sugru, it's a moldable rubber compound. And I have a package of it laying here somewhere that hardens over time. So I would cut the hole in this diameter, let that protrude through the case, Sugru it in place, and then go from there. All right. That's it. Let me get this video up for you guys. See you later. See you tomorrow. Be good. Be well. We'll catch you guys tomorrow. One last one here to tack onto this video. Show you a future project. Viewer Jeff B. Thank you for the Raspberry Pi videos. Could you please make as one of your next projects a Raspberry Pi Zero? Okay, a Raspberry Pi Zero security camera. But his intent is to watch his baby sleep, so he wants to build a baby cam. Jeff, you're in luck. I have a Raspberry Pi Zero W, the wireless version, and I also have a Raspberry Pi Zero web camera. I realize it's kind of hard to see in the foil there, but this is a camera for the Raspberry Pi Zero, and I also have the appropriate case with the camera cover. So we will get that out here pretty soon, probably within the next 4 to 5 days. I will start on that one. This is actually a very quick project. I built a couple of these in the past, so these go really quick. All right, guys, that's it. See you later.